All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our innovation showcase. We are thrilled to have some phenomenal presenters and speakers here. So I am Nick Martin of Tech Change, and I am thrilled to welcome you. A little background on the competition. This is the second time we've done this virtually. I got to host this last year, and we had 6 incredible finalists. This year we have 4, and I'm going to very briefly introduce them, and then I'm going to turn it over to them. The way this is going to work is they're each going to have 5 minutes, and then a follow-up question from me, and then an open floor after we hear from all 4 of them, where you all get to ask some questions. But I can tell you, having looked at these projects, that they are truly innovative and exciting. So let me give you a quick roundup of who we have joining us today. Roman Hrab, who runs a project by Chemonics called Vkursi Zemlyi, will be joining us first. We then have Tanmay Guha, and his project is Hello Juby by Appt Associates. Then we have Lola Adekanye, who has a fascinating project called Ethics First by CIPE, C-I-P-E. And then Matthew Meredith is going to be rounding us off here with a project called Ifrya by LixCap. So that is the group. And you all, again, are going to be able to vote on your favorite innovation. So Pebbles, you, I believe, are going to be sharing the link for everyone to be able to vote. And I think the winners are going to be announced in about an hour, hour and a half. So now is your chance to get to know these projects a bit better. And again, we are going to leave probably about 10, 15 minutes at the end for the audience to ask some questions and really get the most out of this engagement with these fantastic innovators. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our first speaker, Roman. Roman, you are going to tell us about your project, Vkursi Zemlyi. So Roman, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am Roman Hrab, CEO of Vkursi Agro, and our team creates web services that helps farmers to manage their lands more effectively. Today we present a new product that will help farmers online easily and quickly attract bank financing secured by land. The constant search of financial resources to purchase seeds and fertilizer, upgrade equipment, or expand production is a farmer's headache in any country in the world. So for many farmers, the banking sector is complex and confusing, and access to finance is limited. The farmer has to spend a lot of time looking for good credit terms, comparing interest rates, holding meetings, and prepare many documents. In turn, banks are reluctant to work with small agricultural producers due to significant costs and risk. This is a problem not only for Ukraine, but also for many developing countries. So due to the introduction of a full-fledged market of agricultural land in Ukraine in this year, our service will be an extremely useful tool for farmers and banks. Currently, there are at least 6.9 million landowners in Ukraine, and the volume of market land market from July this year will be almost 27 million hectares. The expected volume of purchase and sale of agricultural land is $1.4 billion. So how does our service work? To obtain financing, the farmer must register on Vkursi Zemlyi and indicate the cadastral numbers. Next, Vkursi Zemlyi will automatically check and evaluate these land plots, identify owners and user, detect overlays with other plots, establish the presence of some restriction and litigation and registration errors. Due to this, we use data from open sources and state registers, satellite monitoring, soil information, historical crop rotation, and more and Vkursi Zemlya aims to verify legal facts, assets and potential of land plots and their suitability for lending. All the farmer has to do is specify the desired loan amount and send the application to the partner banks. Banks receive loan applications supported by a proven and clean collateral land. This allows bank to offer the farmer better lending condition, and their cost of attracting customer and conducting their inspection are reduced, and all of this online. So far, as a result, it simplifies the procedure of obtaining loans, significantly reduces the time of verification of the collateral from a few days to several minutes, as well as by automating the process of reducing the cost of banks to administer these processes. So far, we have more than 3,500 customers which used Vkursi Zemlya analytics and data, and more than 4 million hectares have been analyzed. So our team for now, it's 9 people who have many years of experience in agriculture as well as land management of agriculture and enterprises, and we're happy to do this work. In Ukraine, this is the first some service which prepares for land market, and we hope it will be very popular, and I think we have a big potential. Thank you for your attention.
Roman, truly incredible work that you and your colleagues have done. I'm thinking about how you've changed lives for those 3,500 farmers and how you're looking at new opportunities to scale that across the regions and the context where you work. So my follow-up question for you is how do you see further development of your product? Where do you go next? What's on that horizon?
We plan to expand our own database, which help us to fully change and the monetary evaluation of land and make it online, easy, and more based economically useful. So it's one of the first priority, make all evaluation and checking online. Also to provide automatization of document circulation between banks and farmers. It helps because farmer can concentrate only on agricultural products and they don't need to find some documents or filling some forms. It all can be online. And of course, the next steps, it's other spheres of such funding and maybe other countries.
Well, best of luck to you, sir, and it really is tremendous the work that you're doing. Okay, we're now going to shift to Tanmay Gujaroy, and Tanmay, you are working at Appt Associates in India, and you are going to tell us about your innovation, Hello Jubi. So over to you for your 5 minutes.
Sure, thank you. Give me a second to share my screen. Hi, I hope it is visible now. Hi, I am Tanmay Guha, and I work at Appt Associates India. At the very outset, I would like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to present Hello Jubi chatbot that we are using in India to dispel myths around family planning. At Appt Associates, we saw an opportunity to harness the private sector partnership to create demand for Appt products and services. Our research showed that the myths and misconceptions have been affecting the demand for Appt products among the urban poor youth in India. And so we wanted to create a chatbot which caters authentic information around family planning products and services in a manner that appeals to the youth. Our research also showed that the market was ready for it. Nearly 253 million urban poor youth in the age group of 18 to 29 were digitally savvy, but did not have a space or a source of family planning information which is authentic, safe, and private. Let me try to bring this alive through a story of Sanju and Manju. Sanju is a 18-year-old boy and Manju is a 21-year-old girl. No, they are not romantically linked to each other. They live in different parts of India and they even speak different languages. What is common between them is that they are both curious about sex, but do not have a safe and private space where they can go to fulfill their curiosity. They both have smartphones and data is cheaper than most part of the world. But there is information overload on the internet. And most of the information that is available are written in a clinical language, which is not engaging. And more often than not, they are clueless about what to search for. And they cannot talk about it also because sex is considered a taboo in India. So in this situation, where will Sanju and Manju go to fulfill their curiosity? Who will meet their unmet need for information around family planning and sexual and reproductive health? That's why Hello Jubi was born. A youth-friendly chatbot which is safe, conversational, and respects users' privacy. It can be accessed anywhere, anytime. And it is gamified with full-screen video quizzes. And with the power of natural language processing, it can answer common questions around family planning. We followed a user-centered design process by sourcing questions from what people have been already searching for on the net. And they were further fine-tuned with multiple rounds of user testing. It's available in both the languages, Hindi and English. It was developed by Appt Associates, and we thank USAID for funding this. The application is built on the AI platform called Jubi.ai, developed by an Indian tech startup called Infinity. And after the project ends, it will be managed by Adekanye Benkaiser, which is a global manufacturer of contraceptive products. Since launch, we have seen 75,000 unique users have so far used Hello Jubi. 70% of them are male and 30% are female. The average interaction period for each user has been around 90 seconds, which is twice of the industry average in India. And near about, over 70,000 questions have been asked on Hello Jubi so far. The Hello Jubi chatbot until March 2021 had 220 questions and answers. And by July 2021, it will be capable of answering around over 320 questions and answers. With so many users, it's quite likely that many potential pregnancies are being averted. And as a result of that, many more young women are being able to stay at school. We are already aware of the return on investment in the family planning and inclusive universal access to contraceptives has a very high return. And research shows that every single dollar invested in this space returns an economic worth of around $120. We are currently tracking the utilization of the pilot project, and it has the potential to revitalize the market for contraceptives in India. The investors of Hello Jubi will be able to make use of its rich analytics to fine-tune their marketing and research efforts. And inspired by the initial success of Hello Jubi pilot, 3 corporate sponsors have already invested to scale and sustain Hello Jubi. They are IDFC, an asset management company in India, Adekanye Benkaiser, a global manufacturer of contraceptive products, and Howard Delafield International Development Organization. The larger vision behind Hello Jubi is to evolve it as a super app for Indian youth, providing them advice on 3 top concerns in their mind: is health, career, and personal finance. This is our team. We were led by Komal Khanna, Chief of Party, the Shops Plus project being done by Appt Associates India, and myself. And we are supported by the communications team in India and digital delivery team in Rockville, Maryland. Thank you.
Tanmay, a big thank you to you too. What an incredible project, an exciting innovation, use of chatbot in India. My question for you is, we all know that project life cycles in development have very strict timelines. So how are you all thinking about the sustainability of this project beyond the life cycle that USAID funding might allow for?
Thank you very much for the question. And I would like to highlight that right from the very beginning, we had kept sustainability and the potentials to scale and sustainability right from the beginning of the project. And we have already secured funding for next 3 years from 3 corporate sponsors. And they are, as I mentioned, that IDFC as an asset management company in India, global manufacturer of contraceptive products, and International Development Organization. And with the funding, with many more quarters, they are already on the cards, and we're trying to develop Hello Jubi as a super app, which is going to cater to and provide advice to the Indian youth on 3 top of the mind concerns they have, and that is finance, personal finance, career, and health. So that is how we want to sustain the Hello Jubi beyond the Shops Plus project lifecycle.
Thank you so much, Tanmay, for your incredible innovation. We are halfway through with our presenters. I see 165 people live online. A big welcome to all of you. If you can, give us an emoji or a series of emojis in the chat about how you're feeling right now during the Innovation Showcase. Give us a little bit of a flavor for how you're doing before we switch gears to hear from our next presenter. And a reminder, I see some great questions already coming in. That is fantastic. Keep those coming. I will be using those after we hear from Lola and Matthew to have an open floor for our audience engagement. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker, Lola Adekanye. Lola, you have an incredible innovation called Ethics First, and we're excited to hear from you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. I'm really excited to be here. Big thank you to the SID team, and really great to be with great applicants and finalists for the Innovation Challenge. Really tackling the world's pressing problems needs courage and innovation. So I'm grateful to be here with great minds and be talking about our innovation, which is called Ethics First. And it's really about tackling corruption in Africa. Now, corruption is a very complex subject. We all know too much about it. So fortunately, we know a lot about it. I wouldn't be sharing any slides. I'll be telling a few stories and talking about the initiative a little bit more. And if you notice, I've been working on corruption in Africa for only 4 years, and I already have gray hair. So I hope you don't grow any gray hair as I talk about the complexities. Very quickly, the Ethics First innovation was launched on the 1st of May this year. We've been working on it for the last 4 years. And, you know, with regards to tackling corruption around the world, donor communities and you know, stakeholders around the world often put a lot of responsibilities on the government and the civil society organizations to you know, implement stronger law enforcement systems or to sometimes name and shame in some cases. And in most of those cases, the private sector, the business community is often overlooked, but they have a real incentive to tackle corruption. Now, that's where our focus is on at the Center for International Private Enterprise. We really want to galvanize the private sector to tackle corruption in Africa because they have been passive over the years in efforts to tackle corruption. Now, you will know, many studies have shown in Africa that about 1 in 3 Africans reportedly pay bribes to access essential services. Now, about 80% of citizens on the continent live in highly corrupt countries. Now, what that means for me, I live in Nigeria, is if I had to go on a road trip today, an essential thing I had to pack is an envelope with money in it, because there are several checkpoints and I'm often going to have to dish out some bribes if I want to get where I'm going, right? Now, this is the case for businesses. To access licenses, to register your business, to pay your taxes. You know, businesses are often having to factor the cost of corruption into doing business every day. The World Bank, you know, conservatively estimates that, you know, this cost is around 10% of business cost. But in surveys we've done at CIPE in Kenya and in Nigeria recently, this cost is between 30 to 50% of doing business. And unfortunately, it's the small and growing businesses that suffer the most. And that's the majority of businesses in Africa. They provide up to 90% of employment in many African countries. Now, the problem with reducing the cost of corruption to financial numbers and percentages is because the impact of a corrosive problem like corruption is beyond the monetary impact. It has social, developmental, national security implications and governance implications. So the longer corruption problems linger, the more difficult it is to reverse. It becomes convenient for businesses to engage in corruption. It almost becomes fashionable to cut corners. So what have we done? How are we tackling corruption in the private sector through the business community with Ethics First? Ethics First is now a platform that small and growing businesses can register and get support, technical assistance to develop compliance systems that helps them mitigate corruption. So integrity becomes fashionable to them because when they do this, they're able to connect with like-minded businesses across Africa and around the world. They're able to get access to investors or to partners anywhere in the world who are looking for low-risk investors to work with across Africa. So it makes, the competitive advantage of business integrity more apparent to companies in Africa that right now don't believe that integrity pays, almost believe really that corruption is beneficial. So we're trying to reverse that incentive structure. Now, what that means is Ethics First is opening up small and growing businesses to the world of investment, not only in the region with AFCFTA coming through, but also globally. If you're a business that has wondered what it's like to do business in Africa and all you see on the news is the risk of corruption is high, well, here is an opportunity through Ethics First to take that major risk factor, corruption, off the table when you're engaging with local business companies and replace that risk factor with a shared commitment with your partners in Africa to integrity, a shared commitment to transparency, to accountability, and to sustainable development and shared prosperity. So if you are a donor organization, you're an investor in Africa, or you want to be an investor in Africa, I'd certainly invite you to visit Ethics First, www.ethicsfirst.cipe.org. If you're a company doing business in Africa, don't just visit, actually visit and learn more, and then register and start interacting with partners around the world who share the same ethical values as yourselves. This way we can collectively achieve the vision of Ethics First, which is a world where businesses are active partners in reducing corruption and creating inclusive opportunities for trade and investment and growth. The Ethics First team is made up of the Center for International Private Enterprise, which is headquartered in DC. It's made up of Asoko Insights, and it's funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'm happy to talk more about Ethics First. It's over to you, Nick, and thank you.
Well, that's great, Lola. Truly tremendous work. Before we move on to Matthew and let you go, a quick question for you. We know corruption is a big problem. To use your words, it's even become fashionable, and we're seeing some exciting models across the African continent and elsewhere. Groups like Accountability Labs and I Pay to Bribe are working on this. So I want to know what, in your opinion, makes Ethics First unique?
That's a fantastic question, Nick. Yes, there's a lot of anti-corruption efforts around the world. I think there are three things that makes Ethics First unique. Apart from the foundational fact that this is a business-led and a demand-driven approach to tackling corruption, where we create more incentives than in the past, three things makes Ethics First unique. It answers the question whether there is a competitive advantage to business integrity. It says, yes, there is a competitive advantage to business integrity. The second question or problem that it answers for the compliance community is, how do we know that this business is not just checking the box to, gain a business advantage? How do we know that there's actual organizational change, organizational cultural change in the business? And Ethics First progressively takes businesses through the process of strengthening their compliance systems. And the final thing is, the the cost of business integrity is very high and the cost of corruption is still too low in Africa. And what Ethics First is going to do is lower the cost of business integrity and increase the cost of corruption. And those three things, amongst many others, really does make Ethics First stand out as an initiative that supports businesses in Africa.
I love it. All right, Lola, thank you so much. Those of you watching, let's give some virtual claps, some emojis for Lola and her great presentation here. And next into the tank, I'm going to channel my inner Shark Tank announcer voice. Dun, 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 dun. Matthew Meredith, you are joining us from Ifrya, and you're the founding partner at LixCap. So you're going to give us your 5-minute tour de force of Ifrya. We are excited to hear from you next. Over to you, Matthew. And Matthew, we can't hear you if you are trying to share.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm trying to share.
Great, now we can hear you.
Super. Can you see my presentation?
Looks good to me.
Great. So Nick, Thomas, and Pebbles, thank you so much for organizing today. And thank you to the entire SID team for all of the work that you put into preparing this great conference. Thank you all to the panelists. This is a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best and deliver our story. So Ifrya is an integrated cold chain company for North and West Africa. Our target markets start in Tunisia and go all the way down to Benin. Our vision is to be the leading third-party logistics, temperature-controlled logistics company in Northwest and Sub-Saharan Africa with a wide range of clients. We integrate lessons from our management team's work in cold chain development, in developing in frontier markets globally to profitably develop impactful cold chain assets. The innovation that we're going to deliver is we are taking the lessons learned from development finance theory and blended finance theory to apply these to a large scale, multi-country, led by the private sector initiative that widely engages with development actors, that widely engages with the private sector, and the intent is to deliver this solution along the entirety of the agricultural value chain. Our company will be anchored with 10 large-scale, large in the development context, not large in the emerged market context, anchor cold storage warehouses at major consumption zones in major ports in North and West Africa. Think, for example, in Casablanca, Agadir, Dakar, Damianjo, Abidjan, Accra, Cotonou, among other cities in major consumption areas. We're trying to raise $120 million with the intent of developing a profitable company. And our intent brings together a blended approach where we have an operating company structure combined with an investment company approach, and to develop a capital stack that accommodates a wide range of financial interests as well as donor support. Our service is really farm to fork. We want to eliminate breaks in the cold chain supply through the end-to-end development of cold chain logistics. We want to offer pre-cooling, chilled transportation, temperature-controlled storage facilities, streamlined inspection processes, and high-quality handling in adherence to international standards. We are really going to look to engage all the way at the farm to near farm level with a set of assets to bring in transportation and logistics innovation via technology-enabled applications and establishing large-scale assets near the consumption zones to offer a channel for agricultural producers and smallholder farmers to access local markets as well as to access international markets. The financial, social, and economic impact and the development impact we're going to deliver include improving local sustainability and job creation by creating a supply chain and cold chain environment that allows for continual production of agricultural products. Via the cold chain assets and the technologies, we intend to decrease water and energy waste and mitigate greenhouse gas and climate change effects incurred by post post-harvest loss and inefficient transportation and logistics. We want to create an environment to increase export-led agricultural growth. We want to create a logistics, and we also want to create an infrastructure environment that enhances food safety and then also maintains the quality of food to improve the ability for that food to reach its markets. And finally, with our intervention to improve healthcare and nutrition in our markets by providing a supply chain and cold chain for pharmaceutical products, and B, via improved quality and treatment of horticultural and agricultural products, improving the nutritional component. So there's a wide range of development impacts. It's a quite ambitious project. We've already built our first asset at the north of Morocco in the port of Tangier Med, thanks to the generous contribution and support of the U.S. Agency for International Development, as well as engaging with private sector investors. So we're very much looking forward to continuing to grow this project. We're heavy into the fundraising phase right now, and we're heavily engaging with our development partners.
Matthew, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. Before we open up the floor for questions from the audience, I want to ask you, you mentioned some big numbers, $120, $130 million is your goal. You're actively trying to fundraise now from a mix of private and public sources. Where are you in that journey? And what are you kind of looking for potentially from this audience?
Nick, thanks so much. It's a great question. It's really the most important one. We are at the company LixCap, a blended finance company and access to finance development actor. And so that's what we do professionally day in and day out. I lead the practice area in cold chain. We are, with the support of the World Bank, actively developing an airport facility in Benin. We're developing another facility in Phnom Penh in Cambodia with some private sector investors. So we have developed a legal structure with our development company, as well as a jurisdictional framework that allows us to engage capital providers across the entire spectrum of capital. So that's everything from private equity to impact investors to development finance institutions. But we also are very clear, this project does not fly without development engagement. It has to engage the development programming that's in place. So we hope to work with USAID programs, for example, in the countries where we plan to operate. We're already heavily engaged in some countries actively with development programs. We think we'll be able to support those development program missions. And we're actually looking for grant funding, and we're looking for technical assistance funding to deliver technical assistance to the farmer groups and cooperatives that we're working with to help them better use the cold chain assets. Putting an asset in place that doesn't have a training wrapper around it doesn't make any sense. Then the asset's poorly used, the farmers don't know how to use it, they don't capture the value that the cold chain can really bring. And the cold chain is a venue for creating value and bringing value all the way back to the farm level, increasing income levels, increasing job stability, but also creating market access. So we're looking right now to close our Series A. We had actually a pitch this morning, so coming out of that fresh, and we are widely looking to talk to investors interested in agricultural logistics, interested in the ag space, and interested in sub-Saharan and West Africa.
Well, Matthew, that's great to hear. And let's just give those of you who are watching a big round of applause here, virtual applause to Matthew for sharing his innovation with us, and really for all the presenters who've shared. That's all four. So major kudos to you all for pushing the boundaries in your respective countries and contexts with these innovations. So Pebbles will reshare the voting information in the chat. So anybody who's watching, the 188 people who are currently tuning in live can know where to go. And I'm going to go ahead and start and take a few questions from the audience to follow up with our incredible panelists here. So a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please go ahead and type that in the chat box and I will do my best to get to it. Roman, I am going to start with you since you were our first presenter. And I have a question here, Roman, from Matt St. John. And Matt is asking, Roman, who covers the cost of the loan service? And if you're really looking to scale this, as you articulated in your next steps, could some of that be paid by the farmer as a percentage taken from the loan received? Or could they pay a fee that is inverse to their improved credit rating? Have you played with some of these levers? And are you interested in potentially kind of sharing some of that feedback?
Thank you for a question. So we have two groups of possible payers depending on the situation. It's banks and farmers. The first, if farmers use our service and make application to the bank, so for farmers, the cost of verification is small. It's about its range from to $5 for one plot with size 2-4 hectares. So and the loan amount for such plot will be about $2,000 or $3,000. So it's for farmers, the cost is very low. If the bank use our service, the bank use if client did not contact him through our service, if client from the side. So in this case, bank verifies these land plots at his own expense, and this can be either fixed price or percentage from the loan. So it like bank can choose how he will use our service.
That's great. Thanks, Roman. And hopefully, Matt, that helps to answer your question, but feel free to keep following up with Roman if you're interested. Tanmay, I'm going to come to you next. There are a lot of youth in India. There are a lot of youth in India. So you are doing incredible work. They're on social media, these youth, but they may not have access to reliable information on a taboo topic. So Michelle Laird wants to know, how are you helping youth become aware of this app? What is the marketing grand plan?
Certainly. Thanks for this question. And yes, there are a huge number of, given the population of India, and huge number of youth population in India. And digital is actually increasing with the data getting cheaper every day. So digital access is actually increasing very fast in India. So we usually use two channels to promote this chatbot, Hello Jubi. One is through, of course, through social media to create awareness and use that viral effect to reach out to people. And at the same time, we are partnering with the other corporate and in development sector organizations who run adolescent health education programs to leverage their presence among the youth. And with one such partnership, very soon we are going to reach out to 2 million adolescent and youth in northern eastern part of India.
Thank you, Tanmay, for that, and really exciting to keep track of your efforts on this important front, and also get a chance to actually play around with the chatbot. I think folks can go into the 3D virtual space and I think see some of your presentation and screenshots with the actual app. So I'll talk a bit more of that before we close. Okay, Lola, I'm going to come to you next. A lot of folks out there want you to take us a bit deeper into how Ethics First actually works. I've got Yvette here from DAI, Edward, and Michelle. And Michelle also is curious about, beyond how it works, how you're actually able to get companies to buy into this. What's that kind of incentive structure look like? So a bit deeper dive into the mechanics, and then some incentives too would be, I think, welcome. Over to you, Lola.
Sure. Thank you, Nick. With your kind permission, I'll just quickly run through 2 slides to show a little bit under the hood. Very quickly, what we do is we work with local partners in 12 countries right now and growing, who are accredited anti-corruption compliance trainers and corporate governance trainers. And they basically provide training and consulting services across the region and across sectors to local businesses at affordable prices. And so through this network and partnership with chambers of commerce, business membership organizations, sectoral associations across these countries, and by the way, CIPE has been doing this since the 80s, we're able to get businesses to sign up to Ethics First. And when they do that, they realize that they need help and handholding with setting up their corporate governance systems, and they're able to get that support at accessible rates. And so through that, we basically are able to access data about companies, their governance data, their compliance information, record and aggregate that data, and make it accessible to investors who are looking to conduct due diligence at scale. So you can do due diligence using ethics first data at scale in any sector, in energy sector, agribusiness, anywhere, any sector, and almost any country on the continent. Very quickly, with your permission, I'll just show you, if you're a compliance professional, you would want to know, yeah, how do you do that sort of evaluation? And the first thing we do is we basically put companies into a risk band or risk grouping, and we do the risk classification using very high level data, like the size of the business. We're considering turnover and size of population of employees, looking at the complexity of the business, and we have about 3-4 factors that we use in determining that, and the rest of the information is right there. I can see Nick nodding, so I'm going to quickly move it along. I guess I have short time. And then finally, of course, once we put companies into the risk classification groups, we then gradually take them through the listing process. So they start off with green, which is an encouragement. They start off not having everything in place. They may not have their tax returns. They may not have all the compliance information that you need, but to encourage them, they're listed in green and they're starting the process. By the time they get to silver, they're able to meet all the KYC due diligence requirements. And to get to gold, they have to be independently verified by an independent assessor and approved by an advisory committee of experts. Some of them you'll see on this slide right here. So that's very quickly about ethics first. And of course, the data about companies that are listed on ethics first, or profiled and verified on ethics first, will be distributed by Asoko Insight, a partner on an implementing partner on the project, and a provider of business and market intelligence in Africa. So back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Lola. And hopefully those that asked questions about ethics first can follow up with Lola directly and maybe sign up and get some more information. All right, Matthew, I've got a question for you here, which is from Karen Hirschfeld at the Mitchell Group. On a lot of people's minds these days, and those who are on Twitter know this, that we saw Elon Musk saying that Bitcoin is bad for the environment. So Karen wants to know, let's talk about the type of energy being used in cold storage change. Is that a fossil fuel driven energy source, like we saw with some of the conversations around Bitcoin, or are you all making taking active efforts to think about the impact of climate with the energy usage that this cold storage requires? So over to you, Matthew, for any thoughts on that great question from Karen.
Great, Karen. Thanks so much for the question, and thanks, Nick. We think about energy a lot in our business. In addition to the cold storage work at LixCap, we also run an energy efficiency, renewable energy investment facility in North Africa. So we touch energy in a lot of the work we do. And also for Ifrya, we're a cold storage actor. And cold storage, anything that heats or makes cold, consumes lots and lots of energy. What we have found in the facility we have in northern Morocco is that using photovoltaic panels on the on the rooftop of the facility, both provides a cooling effect, so it shades the roof of the facility, and of course provides electricity. And we have realized an energy savings of almost 50% of total kilowatt consumption via the implementation of photovoltaic, which is an enormous impact, because electricity specifically is one of the major cost drivers in our facility. So the combination of generation using photovoltaic, we will definitely implement on all of our facilities. We also have a major greenhouse gas reduction as well as climate improvement capability with improved cold chain logistics and cold chain assets. Post-harvest losses, which are the losses in agricultural product after they've been harvested, can be very, very high, upwards of 40% for some value chains in some markets. And if you fertilizers, chemicals, other energy intensive assets and activities have gone into making those products, and if they're harvested and lost, then you have this 40% energy waste as a result of post-harvest losses. So Ifrya both engages itself to invest in energy efficiency as well as renewable energy technology for our facilities, and our vehicles, but we also, via a secondary effect, can dramatically reduce energy consumption in the agricultural value chains in the markets where we operate. That's it, Nick.
Thanks so much, Matthew. So thank you to all of our panelists for some really great answers, and to you all out there watching us live for some great questions. All right, so I got one last question here, and then we will adjourn so folks can go and vote for their favorite innovation here. And it's really a question about how you all manage innovation, foster innovation, commit to innovation in your various organizations and companies. Any advice, and I want this to be pretty short, no essays, pretty short advice, any advice you'd have for the 200 folks who are watching about how to carve out space, time, energy, resources for projects like yours that are truly innovative, that are truly groundbreaking, at maybe organizations where innovation is not necessarily the overarching priority. So Tanmay, I think I might go to you first, and then Lola, if you have a quick answer for us, and then Roman and Matthew, any thoughts? You're welcome to chime in. I want these short answers though, okay? All right, over to you, Tanmay.
Certainly, thank you very much. This is a very interesting question. And I would like to take this question, actually answer this question from two aspects. One is in the organization context. What my advice will be to, there can be many ideas for innovation. I mean, there is no dearth of ideas. What has the maximum potential for scale and sustainability? That is what should be the primary criterion for judgment, which idea we should go forward. And then, of course, which we have learned, especially in a country like India, where the culture, language, everything differs in every 10 kilometers, it's extremely important to really test that early ideas and test as early as possible with the users. So rapid prototyping and then fine-tuning that idea, so that is user human-centered design process. So that gives us the best idea of what is going to scale best and most successfully. So that actually help us to drive the innovation agenda with the population as well as organization.
Tanmay, that's great. And I love your pitch there for designing with the users, a central tenet of our beloved principles for digital development, which I'm sure many engaged in digital development here in the SID community might be familiar with. Okay, so Lola, over to you to build on Tanmay's wonderful foundation answer.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. That was the first point I was going to make. Certainly think about the users, think about the context in which you're working. But the other thing that I'll add to that is when we encounter challenges and prefer solutions, the interesting thing we do at CIPE is thoroughly interrogate our assumptions and thoroughly interrogate the solutions, the viability of the solutions that we're proposing. And this requires multiple strategy meetings, discussing with people outside your field. A lot of times we want to discuss with people in our field who understand the problem and who are, participants in, in that particular solution, problem solving requirement, but you want to go outside your field. And so we did a lot of that in terms of this project, and we do that all the time in trying to shape and design solutions. So that's something I'll really advise to do. And SID is doing an absolutely fantastic job of that by bringing multiple stakeholders from across public, private, and civil society sectors and more.
That's such great advice. Don't limit yourself to your insular silo community sector field. Really kind of look across sectors and contexts for non-traditional new types of partners. I think that's great advice, Lola. All right, Roman, over to you. What advice would you have for folks who are trying to be really innovative and maybe get a startup like yours launched in a context that maybe it's not that normal or expected to have a startup tackling the problem you're solving?
I think, like general advice, it is important that the team believes in their idea and it's enthusiastic. If you have this requirement, all next will be much easier. Also, if your innovation meets the specific needs of society and makes the people life easier, like for us in Ukraine, yes, our farmers, its implementation will be much easier. So it's very important to be enthusiastic and find the idea which makes the people life easier.
Thank you, Roman. So Matthew, take us home. I mean, you've got a big idea. There's a lot at stake here. You're thinking about massive infrastructure plays. How did you wind up here, and what advice would you have for somebody who's trying to be innovative in the same kinds of ways that you are through this mix of blended financing and infrastructure?
Sure, thanks. So I'll throw a bone to USAID, collaborate, learn, and adapt. The approach we've taken with Ifrya is to be as open-minded and as flexible in our structure as we possibly can. We find ourselves confronted with, well, what exactly do you want to do now between today and 10 years from now, or between today and 5 years from now? We know what our vision is. We have a broad range of different approaches and paths to realize our vision, but we're flexible enough to be able to adapt to possible strategies and tactics, and quite adaptable. And then creating and facilitating innovation in your organization creates or involves creating also that space, that time, and that support from the management level to explore and to try different processes, different procedures, different innovations, different ideas, and different approaches into how you do work. For example, Ifrya, which is being incubated by LixCap, is a project that has brought in every department and every member of our organization and their applied understanding of working in emerging markets to make Ifrya the success and to help it to have achieved where it is today.
Thanks, Matthew, and what a great answer. So here's what I think. I'd love to see some of the 200 folks who are watching this innovation showcase present at the next SID conference. I want to see some more faces out there kind of join ranks with you all, Lola, Roman, Tanmay, and Matthew, and start to drive some innovation at your organization. So if I can ask everyone who's watching live to again give us a big round of applause for all of our incredible innovators here. And Pebbles, if you can drop yet a final kind of link in the chat to make sure people know where to vote. And then Thomas, I think it'd be great to share the 3D space that you can also move around and enter and actually watch some of the incredible talks that these four have produced in the most innovative possible way. So you can be part of the innovation yourself. So that is our invitation. And again, just a gratitude to you all and to the folks watching for joining us on yet another fantastic innovation showcase. So that's all from me, but enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, big thank you to the four of you for sharing today.